the note catcher for anyone who needs it. You have to make a copy, but it's there. So good morning. We are excited to see you all and to go over this session. I was going to say the number of the session, but number 6, there it is. So we're finalizing your implementation plan and performance management routines is what this session will be over. So the overview, we're finalizing the implementation plan, performance management routines, and we'll go deeper into each of these. So at the end of this session, you will learn how to use the project management, the tab for plan and monitor on the implementation plan. You'll understand the purpose of the performance management routines and tools. You will have begun setting team performance management routines, and you'll feel prepared to lead or participate in a performance management meeting. And then you'll learn how to use the performance management tab of the implementation plan to be able to successfully monitor the progress of your project. So section 1, finalizing your implementation plan. So Alex, will you drop in the implementation plan just in case anyone needs it again? So this is tab 7 that we didn't go over in detail in our last session because we knew we had a lot of other tabs that we wanted to cover. And so we saved tab 7 for you to go a little bit deeper. So tab 7 is the project plan and monitor. It will provide an overall view of milestones, activities, and progress. You turn strategies into action steps with owners, timelines, and status checks to monitor progress. And so the way that you fill this tab out is on the left side, you'll see the strategy. So you'll enter the strategy that we are going to monitor. And then from there, you'll align timing with accountability. So what is the milestone? What is the month that we want to have this completed by? And then you'll link the task to the right area of ownership. So what is the work stream that we're focusing on? So is it facilities? Is it instruction? Is it communication? What is the work stream that that particular strategy or task aligns to? Then you'll list the actions required, and there will be probably several actions for one work stream. There'll be several actions that are required. So, for example, we have here for instruction and HQI implementation, one of the strategies could be plan for PD launch, and then the next one will be the owner. So, who owns that? Who owns that line item to ensure that that activity will get done? So you'll assign the responsible owner. And then what is the deadline that you want to have this due by? And then, of course, a status. Is it in progress? Is it not yet started? Is it complete? And then there's a notes section for you to just add notes as you see fit to update notes. This is how you plan and monitor all of the other tabs that you've done. So how are you going to now put it into play and execute the plan and monitor the plan to ensure that it gets done? Next slide, thank you. So we added an addition to tab 6. So one addition was made to the measure to learn tab. So if you go over to tab 2, and you see the measure to learn tab. An additional column was added in order to document how frequently the data is updated. So as you're updating data and as you're updating information, this column F, was added for you to monitor that. This will impact what data are reviewed at each performance management meeting. For instance, some data may be updated every month, while others are updated twice a year. So this tab on the measure to learn allows you to do that, the frequency of data updates and how often the data is updated.
And one quick call out, I just put this in the chat. Temple, I already uploaded or updated your plan to include this additional column because your plan was uploaded to your folder in the drive. Lytle, if you either share it with me or upload it to the drive, I can do the same. There's a couple other additions to the implementation plan that we made. So rather than you having to go and copy it all over, I'm happy to do that. Temple's it's already set.
Okay, Dr. Tate's the owner of it, so I'll have to have her put it in. But yeah, ours does not have those columns. So
Yep,
I'll let
it
her know.
will. Okay, sounds great.
So next slide. So we want to hear from you all, because as you think about stakeholder feedback or how to get feedback on your implementation plan, we want to know, how have you or do you plan to collect stakeholder feedback on your drafted implementation plan? So we want to hear from both districts, and it's either how you've done this or how you plan to do this.
Okay, so for Temple, we're preparing an additional survey. We used the survey format that we did before and kind of tweaked it. And we're trying to decide if we want to send it out in December or wait in January. But that's what we're fixing to do, is to send out a survey about PLCs and see if teachers feel like there's been an improvement, or if they have more time to plan, or if they're spending less time at home, and kind of go in that direction. And I think we're going to maybe pull some small groups next semester also, maybe the groups that we pulled before, and just kind of get some input from them also.
For Lytle, we are going to send out a survey on our plan, and we already have that survey ready. We partner with Engage to Learn for the Strong Foundations implementation, so they're facilitating a lot of it, helping us get the feedback and helping us with the plan, embedding strategies that we're already doing with that grant into this grant as well. And as far as like extended stakeholders, I mean, we'll have our teacher time study researchers will have also reviewed the plan as well, and then they'll be probably discussing it with campus teachers as well. And then as far as a broader brush, probably with our DEIC, we'll go over the plan so that they have awareness.
Thank y'all for that. Anybody else want to share? All great ways. Surveys are great ways to collect additional data. So, and I like the small group idea too, to use the group that you previously worked with to get their feedback on how things are going. So
Yeah.
great ideas.
And I think really being able to leverage the teacher researchers, because they are kind of the representatives of the teachers as a whole, and being able to get feedback from them. So they're kind of boots on the ground of like, hey, we're hearing these things, but what is it actually like? What are teachers actually feeling? What are staff actually feeling? Getting kind of like that through line will be really important. And I think also, as we think about stakeholder engagement, yes, it's important upfront as you're finalizing your plan, but it's also something that you'll want to do as you continue through the implementation phase, because you're going to be making modifications. So as you are making those modifications, as you guys have said, of going and still collecting additional feedback of like, hey, we saw this happening, so we pivoted in this way. How are we feeling now? We'll talk about that a little bit more in section 2, but just wanted to highlight that. I was happy to hear that. And that stakeholder engagement and that feedback piece shouldn't just be kind of this standalone only happening during phase 3. We really want it to be extending through implementation. So knowing that the implementation plan is kind of wrapping up, we still have a little over a month until it is due. So we are asking that it is submitted on the hub by December 19th before holiday break. So we're kind of going in, that's kind of like wrapping up phase 3. How are you all feeling about that? Are there any stresses, concerns, or are you feeling like you're in a good spot?
So would that be through tab 9 then that you would want done?
Yes, so we're going to talk about that. You're just jumping ahead. You're ahead of the game there.
All right.
Yeah. So no, tab 9 does not need to be touched. That'll kind of be during during implementation. So it's just tabs 1 through 8. We did add an additional 1-8, but we're giving you time to work on that today. And we're going to talk through that in the next section. All right, if we're feeling good, then we can jump into section 2. And this is where we're going to be spending the majority of our time today. So really talking about performance management routines. We're going to kind of talk about where we started, where we're at now, and then where this performance management piece comes in. So first, what is performance management? I think there's a lot of different definitions of it. So really wanted to kind of set, this is what it means for this project, and just overall best practice. So performance management is a continuous process where teams collaborate to set expectations, actually monitor the progress, provide ongoing feedback, and working to really align individual performance with the organization goals. So it's really setting these routines that aren't just ad hoc meetings. They're continuous reviews of data so that it's pushing that continuous improvement learning environment. So as a reminder of this whole process of where we started back in February, we were started in phase 1 when we were actually studying teacher time. That was a good 6 months worth of work where we're collecting all that data. In phase 2, we worked to identify those improvements, and that was over the summer when we did the root cause analysis and then put together a theory of change of linking where we're currently at to where we want to be. We're currently in phase 3, which is that implementation plan, when we're putting together really detailed approach of what we're actually going to do to see our theory of action put into action. And then after we finalize this implementation plan, we move into obviously implementation. Along with implementation, we also want to be continuously performance managing our work. So really reflecting again on what is working, looking at both process and outcomes. So process being, are we actually doing what we said we were going to be doing in our plan? The outcome piece being, are we seeing what we thought we would be seeing in our plan? When we talk about performance management, we're going to talk about both performance management routines, so the actual processes, and then also performance management tools, so the actual systems that we use. And we're going to kind of break those up and then provide you some tools that you can use to really operationalize and put into practice. So first, talking about performance management routines. These are really the foundation of effective continuous improvement because they set kind of a set understanding of this is how we're going to approach our performance management. The structures keep your implementation on track, ensuring that your team regularly uses data to reflect, learn, and then most importantly, act. Again, really emphasizing that these aren't just like ad hoc meetings that like, oh, we haven't looked at the data in a while. These are set times where set team members come to review data and have really systematic conversations about that. So when setting your routines, it's important for teams to define the team and leadership. So who is actually leading the process, how the meetings are run, thinking about the actual meeting routines, and then what data will guide the decision making. When thinking about the performance management team, you want to establish clear roles and ownership of those different areas. You want to at least have your performance management lead, which could be your DQI team lead. You'll also have your implementation team members, which could be the rest of your DQI team. You could also, if you want, have a data lead, or the performance management lead can just take that part. Just if you have anyone that is kind of falls into that like data type role, you could always bring them in to support that. When thinking about meeting routines, you really want to define how and when you're meeting. So thinking about meeting frequency, are you meeting every 2 weeks? Are you meeting every month? How often? Your meeting format, are you virtual, in person? Having a template agenda to work from really streamlines the process. And then always having follow-up action steps that occur following the meeting. We're going to provide some tools that you can use to help you set these routines. Lastly, you want to have a data review plan. So actually identifying what data will be reviewed, how often, and by whom. So making sure that that's really aligned with your strategy and is based on the frequency of data updates. So this is why we added that additional tab or additional column to the Measure to Learn tab. We wanted you to be able to indicate how often is this data actually updated for when we need to review it. I know a lot of times you're looking at maybe like STAR data where it's only updated once a year, so why do we need to continuously look at it? That would be kind of like it's on an agenda one time until the next year when it's updated. But if you have more frequently updated data like student attendance, for example, or teacher attendance, that could be ongoing on the agenda. So it's really thinking through how often each data is updated will guide what data is reviewed when. So as Sandra noticed, we have 2 additional tabs that we added to, again, to Temple's plan. Lytle, when we'll connect with Dr. Tate, so then I will update these as well. So this tab is for you to kind of agree and set on some performance management routines for your district. Again, moving from after you've actually completed the plan, you're moving into implementation. What is it going to look like when you're meeting to reflect on how implementation is going? So this is, you really only have to fill out what is in yellow. You can modify the other language. We were just kind of providing some guidance in terms of what we will do. I am going to share my screen to kind of walk through this tab. Just give me 1 second. All right. So again, this is tab 8. You can see at the bottom, added right after tab 7. Now I'm going
Can
to
you
zoom
make
in.
it a little bigger,
Yep.
Alex? Just a little. Okay, thanks.
Yep. So it has 2 main tables. The first one is thinking about that team and leadership piece. Who's actually going to be on the performance management team? Again, there's that performance management lead. This is the person who will be responsible for coordinating the performance management meetings, ensuring that this implementation plan or tab 9 is updated, and then facilitating the discussion. It may make sense for your team to just continue to have the DQI team lead play that role. Again, this is only if applicable. You can have a data or analytics lead who's kind of in charge of preparing the data updates. Again, you can definitely have the performance management lead do this, whatever makes most sense for your team in your district. Next is the implementation team members. This most likely will be the rest of the DQI team. And this is who will participate in the meetings, review their assigned strategies, and implement or monitor any agreed upon actions. So again, for this table, all you have to do is enter names and then feel free to add any additional responsibilities or modify. You can also add additional roles if you want to. This is kind of like the basic of what is needed. Feel free to modify to best meet your needs though. The next one is talking about the actual meeting routines. We're going to have you start talking about it today. This may be a thing where you need to take back, consider, but this is kind of what is important to set as you move into January and kind of that implementation phase. So how often are you going to meet? What's the meeting duration? How long should it be? What's the meeting format? In-person, virtual, hybrid? Really, the meeting objective is to review data in this performance management tab, reflect on progress, identify successes and barriers, and determine next steps. So we've already kind of said that for you. Again, feel free to modify the language, but that's kind of the overall goal. You can also link your meeting agenda template if you're able to create one, so then everyone has access to it. Again, the goal is to have everything in this one implementation plan. Note-taking method. The key discussion points and actions will be captured directly in this implementation plan. Again, I'll go over that in a couple minutes. And then the action step follow-up process. The performance management lead will update this performance management tab, and then share any updates, for example, after the meeting. Again, whatever makes sense. So really anything in yellow is what needs to be modified for your district. This is something that we are asking is this tab is completed by that December 19th due date. Again, we're going to give you time at the end of this training to go over this, but this is kind of what the routines piece looks like. Again, feel free to modify this. If there's additional language that you want to add, we were just kind of saying this is the bare bones of what we typically see for best practice and how we operate. But there's definitely for different projects, adding additional details. Before I jump into performance management tools, are there any questions or kind of thoughts around performance management routines? All right, I think we're going to jump into the tools then. Let me just reset my page. All right, and then everyone can see, yep, performance management tools, great. All right, so now that we've talked about the routines, we're going to talk about the actual systems or tools that you're going to use to actually do the performance management work. Performance management tools are systems. In our case, it's just a tab within our implementation plan, tab 9, that organizes key data needed to monitor progress and progress towards those strategic goals. Again, this was already added as that tab to Temple's implementation plan. I will add it to Lytle's. The core function of it is to really track progress towards each strategy. It documents the baseline starting point, your target, and then any most recent data updates. So with doing that, it's documenting the progress that has been made. And then it supports data-informed decision-making during those performance management meetings. So I'm going to go over it in a little bit more detail and then again, share my screen to walk through what that looks like in your actual plan. And then when these pieces need to be updated. So this is going over each column that is presented in the tab 9 performance management. The first one is the meeting date. So this is when you'll have a performance management meeting. So before each meeting, the performance management lead will go in and update this. So just specifically adding what date the meeting is held. Again, this is completed before the meeting. Then for each strategy that is going to be discussed, aka if there is data that has been updated related to that strategy, then you would be discussing that strategy. So then you would select the strategy from your drop-down options. The baseline starting point. So if, for example, your the data that you were reviewing was around teacher time allocated towards planning, then your baseline could have been what you collected during this needs assessment. So that's a starting point for the measure. It could be numeric or qualitative. Once you have this set, it doesn't change. It's always going to be the same for each meeting. It's just your baseline that you're going to compare it to. So again, if it was the teacher time allocated towards planning, maybe it was 2 hours a week. The target. So this is your goal or target level for improvement. So in our case, it could be teachers have 3 hours of planning a week or 4 hours, or it could be that teachers have Could be like a percentage. Again, once this is set, it doesn't change. So both the baseline and target numbers are always going to be the same. This is where the updates will occur. Looking at the most recent data point available. So maybe you recently did a survey and you received new updated data on how much time per week teachers are able to spend on planning, and it was at 2.4 hours on average. So you would add 2.4 hours. The change from baseline would be an increase by 0.4. We'll say 2.5 hours. So an increase in 30 minutes of planning time. Again, this would be updated before the meeting by the DQI team lead. If that data hasn't been updated, maybe you don't have a most recent survey or data collected, then you wouldn't be referencing that strategy unless there was another data point that was discussed. And then lastly, this is the only piece that's updated during the meeting, the key insights and notes tab. This is where the performance management lead will go through and just take notes during the meeting. So really there isn't anything separate. We'll share like an agenda that we've created, but all of the notes from the meeting will be recorded in this implementation plan. So everyone's on the same page of what was discussed, what data was reviewed, and then what next steps were identified. So again, I'm going to share my screen, but now I'm going to go over the performance management tab. So again, this is tab 9. This does not need to be completed by that December 19th due date. This is what will happen during the implementation plan. So I'm going to walk through it as if I was preparing for a performance management meeting. So looking at this, first I would add the date of my performance management meeting. So if it was today, it would just be 11/7/25, not 26. And then I would identify the strategies that I'm going to be talking about during this meeting. So maybe I do have an update on the high school master schedule. So I select that. I also have an update on the fall PLC reboot. So I'll select that. So because I have updates for 2 strategies, that's why there's the 2 different lines. We wanted to keep it all in one tab rather than having it broken out into like 3 different tabs, for example. So all the strategies are in one point. Just make sure that you have one row for each of them. So then the baseline, again, this is a starting point. In terms of a high school master reschedule, the baseline starting point could just be that we are trying to think of what is the normal days, like 275 days. The goal or target is moving up. We're doing the ADSI program. So it's up to, what is it, like 300 or 320 days?
175 and then up to 200.
Oh. Thank you. And then a fall PLC reboot. So this was the planning time. So our baseline was 2 hours of planning a week in PLC. Our target is 4 hours. So again, these will continue to stay the same. They won't change. If I'm looking at the most recent data, maybe we just came out and we have our updated high school master reschedule, and we do have it set at 200 days. So the change from baseline was up by 25 days, and we're meeting that. In terms of the fall PLC reboot, again, maybe I took a survey and it's up to 2.5 hours, so it's increased by 30 minutes. So then that is all the work that I would do prior to the performance management meeting. Then I would bring this data during the meeting. That's when I would be taking notes in the key insights column. So talking about, hey, what was the process for us working through and redesigning this master schedule? What worked well, what didn't work well, seeing that we've met that. Then also talking about implementation. What do we actually need to consider as we are implementing this new master schedule? And then thinking about the fall PLC reboot, like, great, we saw this 30-minute increase. We know that we've allocated this time. Why isn't it still being used? Again, talking about like what we're seeing in the data, what that actually means and how we need to pivot. Any questions about how to use this tab?
Alex, for clarification, if they had 2 updates for the high school master schedule,
Yeah.
they would do it in separate, strategy. Okay, I just wanted to
Yep.
make sure we stamped that. Got it.
Yep. So thank you for calling that out. So if there are 2 updates because you have, based on your measurement plan in your measure to learn tab, like 3 different data points that you're using to measure progress, then you would have that selected in another tab. So that each data point and each strategy for each data point has its own separate row. Again, the performance management lead is really the person that is responsible for maintaining tab 9. I think that initially, like, it might be a new learning curve, but really emphasizing that consistency in using this will really build momentum and builds that consistent approach that all of the DQI team members, our performance management team members, will continue to know when they have questions around progress of this plan. They can go to tab 9 and see all of the progress that's been made. You can also use this as a way if you only wanted to look at the progress towards the high school master schedule, for example. You can go create a filter, and then I can filter so that I only look at the high school master schedule. So if that was the only strategy applicable to me, I can filter that out. Again, everything's in one place, but you can filter it down to make sure it's all just what you need to be looking at. All right, I'm gonna jump back to our slideshow. And now that we've talked about the performance management routines and then the tools, we're actually going to talk about performance management in practice. So really thinking about how performance management can be operationalized. Again, we're always providing you with these tools, but know that they're just a starting point. Everything can be modified to best that your district needs, your team needs. If you already have existing practices, existing agenda templates, use those. We just want to provide as much support as possible. So in practice, performance management looks like facilitating data review meetings that include, again, those specific time to use data to monitor progress, solve problems, and drive decision-making. Again, really emphasizing these aren't just ad hoc meetings that are last minute. These are really intentional time dedicated to learning routines. Again, not just compliance check-ins of who's done what, is X, Y, and Z happening in terms of our plan. It's really thinking about learning of, we saw this occur, why did it occur? If it is a positive, how can we make sure that this continues? If it was something that we didn't want to see occur, what can we shift so that we are on track to see what we're intending to? Why do we do performance management routines? They build a shared accountability amongst everyone. Everyone who has access to that implementation plan can go to tab 9 and see where we're at, where we're going, what progress has been made. They also keep a focus on implementation outcomes. So it's really looking at how close are we to where we want to be. They also support problem solving in real time. So it's not just, hey, let's reflect on what we did during this past year. It's looking at it again, how frequently you meet. It could be even once a month. So you're able to have those real-time pivots and identify any challenges up front. We provided some tools that I'm going to share in the chat and then also share my screen to walk through quickly. So we created a performance management meeting agenda template, just kind of based on what we use in our work, as well as a facilitator agenda. just gonna, again, share my screen. All right, again, everything can be completely updated to best fit your needs. But this is just a template agenda that you could use as an ongoing basis. Kind of talking about the lead's role, their participants, and then an example agenda. This is kind of what we typically do when we have performance management meetings. First, starting with reviewing the data. So in this case, it would be reviewing the most recent data. So looking at the baseline, the target, most recent, and then that change. And then really focusing on discussing factual observations from the data. What do you see? What has changed? As a group, discuss, then go into reflection. So as a group, discussing what progresses or successes are evident, what barriers or challenges are emerging. And then going into decision making. So based on what you've observed, determine what needs to be continued, modified, or added, and then going into action planning. So after these meetings, everyone should have some set next steps. So for each identified next step, you'll have assigned an owner and a due date. Jumping back into the implementation plan, those will be logged in that tab 8 of, or tab 7 of project plan. So again, everything is in the same place and you continue to monitor. So maybe in terms of the PLC planning, where we only saw an increase in 30 minutes, maybe there's an additional task that's added to the instructional coaches to provide more, to make sure that subs are provided during the PLC planning time. Then that would be added to tab 7 as that line item. Again, so it's kind of an ongoing thing. And then having that summary. In addition to the actual agenda, we shared this facilitator's guide. So this is something that the performance management lead could use to help facilitate the meeting. So it kind of talks about what to do before the meeting, making sure that the data are current in the performance management tab, updating, has some facilitation tips, and then again, walks through this meeting agenda with some prompts and notes. So just going through, like, let's begin by reviewing the data and focusing on factual observations. During the reflection phase of asking what is working, what needs to be modified. Then it gets into, again, the decision-making piece of recording all of the next steps in the activity column on tab 7 of the project plan. And then really focusing on who's responsible, who's the owner, what's the deadline for that, and then what additional supports are needed. So again, the performance management lead is the person responsible for updating both the performance management tab as well as that project management tab, so everyone is on the same page. And then just talks about some post work. These are, again, just kind of based on similar tools that we use that we found to be helpful, and it's helpful to have this as a starting point. Jumping back to the slideshow. And after kind of talking around performance management routines, tools, and then what that looks like in practice, wanted to talk about some common challenges that are experienced, and that's why we've kind of created these tools. So common challenges that we see that are experienced in holding some performance management meetings include that meetings drift off focus. So maybe you just get really focused on like one data point and everyone kind of spirals focusing on this. I know I've had that happen. So having that specific time element keeps you on track using that standard agenda. It seems odd having those like 5, 10, 15-minute increments, but it keeps everyone on track. It's also a learning curve, but after a while, you'll see that everyone starts to really stay on track and be able to share out specifically what they need to, rather than kind of going into spirals on different data points. Another common challenge is that data are not ready or they're inconsistent. So having the performance management lead prepare that data in advance for the meeting, and then making sure that we are updating it only when it's updated, ensures that the data is prepared. And then lastly, there's a lack of follow-up. So I know a lot of times I've been in meetings where we're reviewing data and then there's no kind of next step. So it feels very like we just had this great discussion, but there's nothing that was coming from it. I don't know like what I'm supposed to do after or what someone else is supposed to do. So really tying this performance management tab to your project plan tab is where we're mitigating this. You're ending every performance management meeting with assigned next steps. So everyone knows what to do. Everyone is held accountable because it's in one spot where everyone has access. Before we jump into breakout rooms, do we have any questions about the overall performance management aspect of this project? All right, so I'm going to open up the breakout rooms. And what we are asking for you to do is to just spend around 10 minutes kind of talking about the performance management routines. You don't have to set them or agree on them. I know not full teams were able to attend today, but at least get a feel for who do you think the lead will be, who will be on the team, and then begin discussing these meeting routines. Again, this isn't something that is going to start right now. It's going to start once you start implementing, most likely in January. But then also thinking about any of those quick pivots, like the fall PLC reboots that you have done, you can think about how you can start to track that data now. All right, so I'm going to open up the rooms and we will come back together at 9:55 to close out. I always forget to start it.
Hey, I just need to interrupt for a moment. My team, I forgot to tell you, the mid-year survey is in phase 3 in our Temple Drive. If y'all want to just take a peek at that and send me feedback.
Awesome, definitely
Okay.
will do. All right, everyone is back. All right, hopefully that gave you some time, even if you weren't able to kind of set the routines, to begin talking about it and really thinking about, as we're coming to close of phase 3, kind of what implementation will look like for you, really making sure that yes, the work's being done, but we're also reconvening, checking in on how the work is being done. Again, these will be really good times to bring in your performance management team, the implementation team, but also continuously reflecting on and getting feedback from the teacher researchers, for example, making sure that you're having all voices represented in that. So when we're thinking about what's coming up, we have our last training in December, which is crazy. I can't believe we've gone through almost a full year of this. This training will be focusing on change communication, as well as just kind of final like implementation steps. Your actual implementation plan is due on December 19th. That's when we ask that it is uploaded to the hub. Again, only tabs 1 through 8. Don't worry about tab 9. That will be something that you use during the performance management and implementation phase. So your next steps are to share your draft implementation plan with various stakeholder groups for feedback, as we discussed earlier, using this time before December 19th to finalize it. So updating and finalizing that plan. As a team, set your performance management routines, not tab 1, sorry, it's tab 8, in the implementation plan, and then decide when your first performance management check-in will be. So again, just making sure that it's not something that's forgotten about. That's easy to quickly overlook as you've gone through all of this work of setting your plan. Make sure that you have that first meeting set, so then you can kind of get the ball rolling. Otherwise, that is all we have for you today. We're going to share the exit ticket in the chat. If you can please fill that out, that gives us a recording that you attended, as well as, again, just important feedback on how this training went. As always, all of these materials and the recording will be uploaded to the Time Study Hub, and we will share that in a post-training email. If you have any questions or want any feedback on your plan, always feel free to reach out to us and we're happy to review. Otherwise, everyone have a great Thanksgiving and we'll see you in December.
Same to you. Y'all have a good day.
You too.